The storm hit the coast harder than anyone expected. Rain poured down like sheets of metal, and the wind screamed across the dark water. Do-yun pulled his jacket tighter as he stood at the harbor, checking his fishing boat for damage. He had been fishing these waters for 20 years, and he knew when to respect the ocean's anger. "You shouldn't be out here," a voice called through the rain. Do-hyun turned and saw Hana running toward him. She was a marine biologist who worked at the research center near the town. Her hair was soaked, and she carried a flashlight that bounced wildly as she ran. "I'm just checking the boat," Do-hyun shouted back. "What are you doing here?" "I had equipment in the water. I need to make sure it's not—" Hana stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes went wide as she stared at the sky. Do-hyun followed her gaze. At first, he thought it was lightning, but the light was wrong. It was blue and purple, streaking across the black clouds like a wounded bird. Something was falling from the sky, burning as it fell. "What is that?" Hana whispered. The object, whatever it was massive. It tumbled through the air, pieces breaking off and trailing fire behind it. Do-yun's heart pounded as he realized it was heading straight for the water, maybe a kilometer from shore. The impact was enormous. Even from the harbor, they felt the shockwave. Water shot up into the sky like a mountain rising from the sea. The sound came a second later, a deep boom that shook Do-hyun's chest. "We need to call someone," Hana said, already reaching for her phone. "Wait." Do-hyun grabbed her arm. "Look." Through the rain and darkness, they could see lights under the water. Not fire. These lights were steady, pulsing with strange colors. Green, blue, purple. Colors that didn't belong in the ocean. "Is it a plane?" Hana asked. "No plane has lights like that," Do-hyun said. "Come on." He didn't know why he did it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the voice in his head that said someone might need help. He jumped into his boat and started the engine. Hana hesitated for only a moment before jumping in beside him. The ride across the water was rough. Waves crashed over the sides of the small fishing boat, and Do-hyun had to fight the wheel to keep them on course. But he had sailed in worse. He kept his eyes on those strange lights. As they got closer, Do-hyun saw something that made his breath catch. It was a ship, but not like any ship he had ever seen. It was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. The shape was all wrong, too smooth, too organic. It looked almost alive. Part of it was above water, tilted at an angle. The lights came from inside, shining through cracks in the hull. "This isn't human," Hana said quietly. "Do-hyun, this is not from Earth." Before he could respond, a section of the ship opened. Not a door, exactly. The metal just seemed to flow apart like water, and from inside, figures began to emerge. They were tall, taller than humans. Their skin was pale gray, almost silver in the strange light. They had 2 arms and 2 legs like humans, but their faces were different. Larger eyes, no nose that Do-hyun could see, and their heads were slightly elongated. They wore clothes that seemed to be made of the same flowing material as their ship. One of them saw the boat. It raised a hand, not threatening, but more like a wave, a greeting, or maybe a plea for help. "They're alive," Hana breathed. "They survived the crash." More of them came out. Do-hyun counted at least 30, maybe 40. Some were carrying others who seemed injured. He saw smaller ones too. Children, he realized with a shock. They had children with them. One of the tall beings stepped to the edge of their broken ship. It was female, Do-hyun somehow knew, though he couldn't say exactly how. She held up a small device and pointed it at them. A light scanned across the boat. Then she spoke. But the words didn't come from her mouth. They came from the device, in perfect Korean. "Please, we need help. We are refugees. We mean no harm." Do-hyun and Hana looked at each other. This was impossible. This was beyond anything they could understand. But those beings in the water, wet and scared and carrying their wounded, looked so much like refugees he had seen on the news. People running from war. People who had lost everything. "How many of you are there?" Do-yun called back. The device translated. 42. We have injured. We have young ones. Our ship cannot fly again. Where did you come from? Very far. We were fleeing war. Our ship was damaged. We did not mean to come here. It was an accident. Hana grabbed Do-hyun's arm. We can't handle this alone. We need to call the military, the government, someone. Look at them, Do-hyun said. If the military comes, what do you think happens? They're not going to see refugees. They're going to see aliens, threats, experiments. But we can't just... My warehouse, Do-hyun interrupted. The old seafood warehouse on the South Pier. It's been empty for 2 years. It's big enough. You're crazy, Hana said. But she wasn't saying no. Do-hyun turned back to the beings. Can you swim? Can you make it to shore? The female one nodded. Yes, we can breathe your water for short time. Then follow my boat. Stay low in the water. Don't let anyone see you. I'll take you somewhere safe. It took 3 trips. Do-hyun's boat could only carry so many at a time. The beings were surprisingly light, despite their height. They moved quietly, efficiently, helping each other with care. The small ones, the children, watched everything with huge, curious eyes. By the time they got everyone to the warehouse, the storm was starting to fade. Dawn would come soon. They had maybe an hour before people started moving around the harbor. Inside the warehouse, the beings huddled together. Some tended to the injured, others comforted the scared children. The female who had spoken first approached Do-hyun and Hana. Thank you, the device translated. I am Kira. We are the Velen people. We did not want to bring trouble to your world. You're in trouble yourselves, Do-hyun said. What happened to you? Kira's large eyes seemed to dim with sadness. Our world was destroyed. Our people scattered across the stars. We have been running for many months. The Krev Empire hunts us. They want to erase all Velens from existence. Why? Hana asked. Because we saw their crimes. Because we spoke truth. Because they fear what we know. Before they could ask more, they heard it. The sound of helicopters in the distance. News crews, probably. Maybe military. Someone had seen the crash. Do-hyun looked at the 42 beings in his warehouse. They were exhausted, scared, and far from home. He thought about turning them over to the authorities. He thought about calling for help. He thought about all the sensible, safe things he could do. Instead, he walked to the warehouse door and locked it from the inside. We'll figure this out, he said. But right now, you need to stay hidden. Outside, the helicopters grew louder. The mayor's office was small and cluttered with paperwork. Junho had been mayor of this coastal town for 6 years, and he thought he had seen every kind of problem. Fishing disputes, storm damage, tourists causing trouble. But nothing like this. Do-hyun stood in front of his desk, looking exhausted. Hana sat beside him, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. You're telling me, Junho said slowly, that you have 42 aliens hiding in your warehouse right now. Yes, Do-hyun said simply. And they're refugees from some kind of space war. Yes. Junho rubbed his face. This is insane. We need to call Seoul. We need to call the military. This is way beyond what we can handle. The military is already on the way, Hana said. We saw 3 helicopters doing sweeps over the water at sunrise. They're looking for the crash site. As if on cue, the phone on Junho's desk rang. He picked it up, listened for a moment, then went pale. Yes, sir. I understand. Yes, sir. He hung up and looked at Do-hyun and Hana. That was Seoul. The military is sending a team. They'll be here in 2 hours. Captain Hyun-soo is leading them. They want to secure the site and investigate the crash. We can't let them find the Velens, Do-hyun said. You didn't see them, Junho. They have children with them. They're scared and hurt and running for their lives. I understand that, but this is bigger than us, Junho said. What if they're dangerous? What if this brings more aliens here? Hostile ones. Then we deal with it, Do-yun said firmly. But we don't hand over innocent people just because we're afraid. Junho was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. Show me. At the warehouse, Junho's reaction was the same as Do-yun's had been. Shock, fear, then something else, something softer. Because the Velens, despite being aliens, didn't look like monsters. They looked like families trying to survive. Kira approached them with her translation device. You are the leader of this place? Mayor, yes, Junho said. I don't know what to do with you. We ask only for time, Kira said. Time to heal our wounded. Time to decide where to go next. We will leave your world as soon as we can. We do not wish to cause problems. You've already caused problems just by being here, Junho said, but his voice wasn't harsh. The military is coming. I can't stop them. Then we will face them, Kira said quietly. No. The voice came from the warehouse entrance. A young woman stepped inside, carrying bags of supplies. We hide them properly. Yuna? Junho blinked. What are you doing here? Yuna was a teacher at the local elementary school. She was small but fierce, with a way of making people listen when she spoke. Do-hyun called me, she said. He thought you might need help. I brought medical supplies, food, and blankets. She walked right up to the Velens without fear. Hi, I'm Yuna. I teach children. Do your little ones need anything? The Velen children peeked out from behind the adults. One of them, braver than the others, stepped forward. It reached out a thin gray hand toward Yuna. Yuna smiled and gently took the hand. You're safe here. We'll protect you. That's when it happened. The child's large eyes seemed to glow faintly, and Yuna gasped, not in pain or fear, but in surprise. I can feel what you're feeling, she whispered. Happiness, relief, hope. You're empaths. Kira nodded. Yes, our people feel emotions of others. It is why we could not be warriors. We feel too much pain when we cause it. Over the next hour, more people arrived at the warehouse. Do-yun's brother, Hana's colleagues from the research center, the owner of the local restaurant. Word had spread quietly through the town, person to person, and those who came did so because they wanted to help. Then the military arrived. Captain Hyun-soo was a tall man with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. He came with 20 soldiers, all armed and ready. They cordoned off the harbor and began searching for evidence of the crash. Junho met them at the harbor entrance, trying to look calm. Captain, he said, welcome to our town. How can we help? We detected an unidentified object crashing into the water near here, Hyun-soo said. Satellite imagery shows it was not a meteor or aircraft. We need to investigate. Of course, the crash was about a kilometer offshore. Some debris washed up on the south beach. Hyun-soo studied Junho's face. Have you found anything unusual? Any survivors? Junho hesitated just a fraction too long. Hyun-soo noticed. Mayor, if you're hiding something, it's better to tell me now. This is a matter of national security. Before Junho could answer, a loud voice came from behind them. National security or human decency? A woman walked toward them, her phone held high, streaming live video. It was Taeyang, a human rights activist who had grown up in this town but now worked in Seoul. I'm broadcasting live to 10,000 people right now, Taeyang said. Whatever you do here, Captain, the world is watching. Hyun-soo frowned. This is a military operation. You need to leave. Public beach, public harbor, Taeyang said. I have the right to be here. While this confrontation happened, Hana was back at the warehouse with Yuna and the Velens. They were working frantically to hide any evidence. The younger Velens could change their skin color slightly like chameleons. It wasn't perfect, but in dim light they could blend with the warehouse walls. The injured ones were the problem. One Velen had a badly damaged leg, and another was unconscious. Moving them would be dangerous. "We need medical help," Hana said. "Real medical help." "I know someone," Yuna said. "A doctor in the next town. She's my cousin. She won't ask questions." By evening, things had become more complicated. News of the crash had spread beyond the local area. International news networks were reporting on the mysterious object that had fallen into Korean waters. Speculation ran wild. Was it a satellite, a meteor, a secret military craft? Then someone leaked blurry photos online. Photos that showed strange lights in the water. Photos that looked almost like a ship, an alien ship. The internet exploded. In Seoul, government officials scrambled to figure out what to do. In military headquarters, generals demanded answers. Around the world, people watched and wondered and debated. And in a small warehouse in a Korean coastal town, 42 Velen refugees huddled together while a handful of humans tried to decide how to protect them. Minji, a government official from Seoul, arrived late that night. She was young for her position, brilliant and idealistic. She had pushed her way onto the investigation team because she wanted to see the truth for herself. She found Junho at the town hall looking exhausted. "Tell me everything," she said, "and please don't lie. I'm here to help." Junho looked at her for a long moment. Then he made a decision. "Come with me." At the warehouse, Minji's reaction was different from the others. She didn't gasp or show fear. She walked right up to Kira and studied her carefully. "You're refugees," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Kira replied through her device, "and someone is hunting you. The Krev Empire. They have destroyed our homeworld. They hunt the survivors." Minji pulled out her tablet and started taking notes. "Then this is a refugee situation. Under international law, you have rights. You have the right to seek asylum." "We're not from your planet," Kira said. "We are not human refugees." "You're sentient beings fleeing persecution," Minji said firmly. "That's what matters." She turned to Junho. "We need to move fast. Once the military confirms there are aliens here, they'll want to take them. We need legal protection in place first." "Can you do that?" Junho asked. "I can try, but I'll need time. And I'll need everyone to keep quiet a little longer." That night, as Minji worked on legal documents and made phone calls to allies in Seoul, something happened that changed everything. Hyun-soo, the military captain, showed up at the warehouse alone. Everyone froze. But Hyun-soo didn't call for backup. He didn't draw a weapon. He just stood there looking at the Velens. "I knew something was wrong," he said quietly. "The way people in this town looked at me. The way they closed ranks. I've seen it before, in war zones, when civilians protect refugees." "Are you going to report them?" Do-hyun asked. Hyun-soo watched as a Velen parent comforted a frightened child. "My grandmother fled from the north during the war," he said. "She walked for days with my mother, who was just a baby. She said the hardest part wasn't the journey. It was the fear that no one would help them, that everyone would see them as a burden or a threat." He looked at Do-hyun. "How long can you hide them?" "As long as we need to." Hyun-soo nodded slowly. "Then you didn't see me here, and my report tomorrow will say we found debris, but no survivors." "Why are you doing this?" Junho asked. "Because it's right," Hyun-soo said simply. "But understand this. I can only delay things. Other agencies are coming. Eventually someone will find them. You need a better plan than just hiding." As Hyun-soo left, Kira approached Minji. "Why do you help us?" "Your people do not know us. We bring danger to your world." Minji smiled. "Because that's what humans do. When we're at our best, anyway. We help those who need it." High above Earth, invisible to human eyes, 3 Krev scout ships entered the solar system. They had been tracking the Velen refugee ship for weeks, and now they had found it. The United Nations emergency session was unlike anything in history. Representatives from every nation crowded into the assembly hall. News cameras broadcast to billions of people worldwide. Everyone wanted answers about the aliens that had crashed on Earth. Minji stood at the podium, her hands shaking slightly. She was just a mid-level government official, not someone used to addressing the entire world. But she had the evidence, and she had the truth. "The beings who crashed near the Korean coast are called Velens," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "They are not invaders. They are refugees fleeing genocide. Their homeworld was destroyed by an empire called the Krev. They have been running for months, and their ship was damaged. The crash was an accident." Immediately, voices erupted from the assembly, some angry, some afraid, all demanding action. "How do we know they're telling the truth?" the Russian delegate called out. "This could be an invasion strategy." "We've verified their story," Minji said. She pulled up holographic data from Kira's translation device. "Their ship's navigation records show their journey. Medical scans show they're injured and malnourished. They have children with them, for God's sake. This is not an invasion force." "But they bring danger to us," another delegate argued. "If this Krev Empire is hunting them, Earth becomes a target." In the small coastal town, Taeyang had set up a live stream that was being watched by millions. He had convinced Kira to let him interview some of the Velens, to let the world see them as people, not just aliens. A young Velen named Sarah sat in front of the camera. She was barely more than a child by Velen standards, perhaps 16 in human years. Through the translation device, she spoke softly. "My mother was an artist," she said. "She painted pictures of our world, our moons, our oceans. When the Krev came, they burned everything. They said our art was propaganda. They said our science was a threat. They killed anyone who would not serve them." Taeyang kept the camera steady. "Where is your mother now?" Sarah's large eyes filled with tears. "She died getting me onto the ship. She told me to run, to survive, to remember our people." The video went viral within minutes. Millions of people around the world watched this alien girl cry for her lost mother, and they saw not a monster but a child who had lost everything. In Seoul, a young man named Ji-won watched the video on his laptop. He was a genius with computers and technology, someone who had started coding when he was 8 years old. He worked for a major tech company, but his real passion was solving impossible problems, and the Velen ship data was the most impossible problem he had ever seen. Do-yun had brought him fragments of the ship's computer system. The technology was beyond anything human science understood, but Ji-won was determined to crack it. He had been working for 3 days straight, barely sleeping. Then he found it. Buried in the ship's databanks were files, video files, recordings from Velen survivors across the galaxy, and they showed everything. The Krev Empire attacking peaceful colonies, mass executions, entire planets bombed until nothing lived. War crimes on a scale that made human history look tame. Ji-won's hands trembled as he watched. Then he copied everything and sent it to Minji. "This is what we need," Minji said when she received the files. "This is proof." She immediately shared the evidence with the UN. Within hours, the recordings were being analyzed by experts worldwide. The images were horrifying. Krev soldiers executing unarmed civilians, cities burning, refugee ships being shot down as they fled. The mood in the UN assembly changed. This was no longer just about whether to protect 42 aliens. This was about whether humanity would stand against genocide. But not everyone was convinced. "This is not our war," one delegate argued. "We should hand over the refugees and stay out of it. Why should humans die for aliens we just met?" Then something happened that no one expected. The Krev Empire made contact. Every screen on Earth, every television, every computer, every phone suddenly displayed the same image. a tall, armored figure with dark red skin and glowing yellow eyes. The Krev commander. "Humans of Earth," the voice said, translated automatically into every language. "I am Commander Thal of the Krev Empire. You are harboring Velen criminals. You have 48 hours to surrender them to us. If you do not comply, there will be consequences." The transmission ended as abruptly as it began. Panic spread across the world. Stock markets crashed. People rushed to stores to buy supplies. Governments held emergency meetings. Everyone was asking the same question: what do we do? In the coastal town, the mood was tense but defiant. The people who had been hiding and protecting the Velens for days were not about to give up now. Do-hyun stood with Kira in the warehouse. "You should leave," he said. "Take your people and run. We can create a distraction, give you time." "Where would we go?" Kira asked. "Our ship is destroyed. We have no way to leave your planet, and even if we could, the Krev would hunt us down. They always do." "Then we fight," Do-hyun said simply. "You cannot fight them. They have warships, weapons beyond your technology." "You would all die." "Maybe, but we wouldn't die as cowards who handed over refugees to murderers." The next day, something remarkable happened. Around the world, people began to organize. Protests erupted in major cities, demanding that governments protect the Velens. Social media exploded with messages of support. Artists created works showing humans and Velens standing together. Musicians wrote songs about courage and compassion. A global referendum was organized, the fastest in history. The question was simple: should humanity protect the Velen refugees? Taeyang traveled to Seoul to help coordinate the referendum efforts. He gave speeches, organized rallies, and kept the live stream running constantly. He showed the world that the Velens were not monsters but families, scientists, artists, and teachers. People who loved and feared and hoped just like humans did. Yuna, meanwhile, had started teaching the Velen children human songs. She discovered that music was universal, that melody and rhythm transcended species. The children learned quickly, and soon they were singing alongside human children. One video of a Velen child and a human child singing together was watched by over 1 billion people. In military bases around the world, soldiers prepared for the worst. Hyunsu, who had been promoted to help coordinate Earth's defenses, worked day and night to create strategies. But everyone knew the truth. If the Krev attacked, Earth's military technology was primitive compared to theirs. "We can't win a straight fight," one general said bluntly. "We need to be realistic." "Then we don't fight a straight fight," Hyunsu said. "We use what we have: determination, unity, and the fact that we're defending our home." Jiwon had an idea. Working with Velen engineers who understood their own technology, he began to develop something new. The Velens had shield technology in their ship, technology that could protect against energy weapons. It was damaged, not functional anymore. But the principles were there. "If we can adapt this to work with Earth's satellite network," Jiwon explained to a room full of scientists and engineers, "we might be able to create a planetary defense grid." "That's impossible," one scientist said. "We'd need months, maybe years to develop something like that." "We have 40 hours, Jiwon said, "so we'd better work fast." The referendum results came in. Out of 5 billion people who voted, 67% chose to protect the Velens. Not everyone agreed, and the margin wasn't huge, but it was enough. The Secretary General of the UN made the announcement that would change human history forever. "People of Earth have spoken. We will not surrender the Velen refugees. They are under our protection now. And to the Krev Empire, we send this message: these beings have suffered enough. They will suffer no more at your hands. If you want them, you will have to go through us." The transmission was sent directly to the Krev ships that were now entering Earth's orbit. 3 warships, each larger than an aircraft carrier, took up positions around the planet. Commander Thal's response came quickly. His face appeared on screens again, and this time he was not polite. "You make a grave mistake, humans. You are primitives playing at heroes. We will take what we came for, and we will teach you the price of defiance." In the warehouse, Kira gathered all the Velans together. "We should surrender ourselves," she said. "We cannot let these people die for us." But Do-hyun, Hana, Junho, Yuna, and dozens of other townspeople stood at the warehouse doors, blocking the exit. "You're not going anywhere," Do-hyun said. "You're one of us now." "You don't understand," Kira said, her voice breaking. "The Krev will destroy you. They will bomb your cities. They will kill millions, all because of us." "Then they're murderers," Hana said firmly. "And we don't negotiate with murderers. We stop them." Around the world, militaries moved into position, not just to fight, but to protect. Evacuation plans were activated for coastal cities. Shelters were prepared, and in laboratories and tech centers, thousands of people worked alongside Velan engineers to build the impossible, a shield that might protect Earth from alien weapons. Ji-won hadn't slept in 2 days. His eyes were red, his hands shook from too much coffee, but he kept working. Lines of code scrolled across multiple screens. Velan engineers worked beside him, their long fingers moving over human keyboards as they tried to bridge 2 different technological languages. "It's working," one of the Velans said suddenly. "The integration is working." On screens around the room, a map of Earth appeared. Red dots showed satellites being modified, linked together, forming a network. It wasn't complete. It had gaps, weaknesses, but it was something. "How long until it's operational?" Minji asked. She had been coordinating between the tech teams and the government. 12 hours, Ji-won said. "Maybe 10 if we're lucky. The Krev deadline is in 6 hours. Then we work faster." In orbit, Commander Thal watched Earth with growing impatience. These humans confused him. They were weak, technologically backward, yet they dared to defy the Krev Empire. It was foolish, it was insulting, but it was also curious. In all his years of hunting Velans, Thal had never seen another species protect them. Most civilizations handed over refugees immediately when the Krev arrived. They valued their own safety over the lives of strangers. These humans were different. Stupid, perhaps, but different. "Begin the demonstration," Thal ordered his crew. "Target the uninhabited island in the Pacific. Show them what our weapons can do." Earth's military tracked the energy buildup on the Krev ship. Warnings went out immediately. "They're preparing to fire," Hyun-soo reported. "All forces, prepare for impact." But before the Krev could fire, something unexpected happened. A signal came from deep space, not from Earth, not from the Krev ships, from somewhere else. Another alien transmission, this time from a different species entirely. The alien transmission came from a ship that appeared suddenly at the edge of Earth's solar system. It was sleek and silver, nothing like the Krev warships or the Velan refugee vessel. The message was simple and direct. "This is the Galactic Council. We are monitoring this situation. All parties are advised that we are watching." Then the ship went silent, just floating there in space. Not threatening, not helping, just watching. Commander Thal's expression hardened when he saw the Council ship. This was unwelcome. The Council rarely interfered in Krev operations, but their presence complicated things. He could not simply destroy Earth now, not with witnesses from the Council present, but he could still make the humans suffer. "We will proceed with a limited demonstration," Thal told his crew. "Target the uninhabited island. Fire 1 warning shot. Let them see what they face." On Earth, Hyun-soo watched the Krev ship charge its weapons. Energy readings were off the charts. Whatever they were about to fire, it was powerful enough to wipe out a city. "Evacuate the Pacific region," he ordered. "Get everyone away from the coastlines." But Ji-won had a different idea. "We're not ready," he said. staring at the incomplete shield network on his screens. But we might be able to protect one location if we concentrate all the satellite power to one point. The island they're targeting? Minji asked. Yes, it's risky. If it fails, we show them we have nothing. But if it works, we buy time. Do it, Hyunsu said without hesitation. The Krev fired. A beam of pure energy shot down from orbit, bright enough to light up the night sky across half the planet. It struck the small island with enough force to vaporize it completely. Except it didn't. The beam hit something invisible, an energy field that appeared just seconds before impact. The shield flickered, strained, but held. The island beneath it was untouched. Around the world, people watched in amazement. Somehow, impossibly, Earth had blocked an alien weapon. On the Krev flagship, alarms blared. Thal stood from his command chair, his yellow eyes wide with shock. How? He demanded. The humans don't have that technology. Commander, one of his officers said nervously, the shield has Velen energy signatures. They must have adapted the refugee ship's technology. Thal's hands clenched into fists. The Velens. Always the Velens, causing problems even when they were broken and scattered. And now they had given the humans weapons to defend themselves. In the warehouse, the Velens watched the news on a small TV. When they saw the shield work, saw Earth's first successful defense against Krev weapons, many of them began to cry. Not from sadness, but from hope. They really are protecting us, Kira whispered. These humans, they're really fighting for us. Do-Yun put a hand on her shoulder. I told you. You're one of us now. But the celebration was short-lived. Hyunsu's voice came over emergency broadcasts. All citizens, this is a military alert. The Krev are not retreating. They're repositioning for a larger attack. We estimate 12 hours before they strike again. All defensive forces, prepare for engagement. Jiwon looked at the shield network on his screens. One point of defense had worked, but barely. They needed complete coverage, and they needed it fast. We can't do this alone, he said to the Velen engineers. We need more power, more satellites, more time. One of the Velens, a scientist named Rocco, studied the human technology carefully. Your satellites are less advanced than ours, but you have many of them, and your people work fast. Adapt quickly. This is unexpected. Unexpected good or unexpected bad? Jiwon asked. Both, Rocco said. Good because you might actually survive this. Bad because the Krev will see you as a threat now. He was right. Commander Thal was no longer treating this as a simple refugee extraction. Earth had defied him, embarrassed him in front of the Galactic Council. Now it was personal. Prepare all weapons, Thal ordered. We will strike multiple locations simultaneously. Their primitive shield cannot protect everywhere at once. His officers hesitated. Commander, the Council ship is still watching. If we engage in large-scale destruction of a developing world, they will report it. Let them report it, Thal snarled. The Council is weak. They talk and debate while we act. By the time they make a decision, Earth will be in ruins and the Velens will be dead. But Thal had made a mistake. His communication was not as secure as he thought. Jiwon, working with Velen technology, had managed to intercept and decrypt some of the Krev transmissions. He heard Thal's plans, heard the threats, and he shared them with the world. Within hours, the intercepted communications were being broadcast everywhere. People heard a Krev commander planning to destroy cities, kill millions, all to capture 42 refugees. The evidence of Krev war crimes, combined with these new threats, created a firestorm of outrage. Minji used this moment to share everything with the Galactic Council ship. The video evidence of Krev atrocities, the intercepted communications, testimony from Velen refugees. She sent it all, hoping that someone out there in the galaxy cared about justice. The Council ship received the data, and for the first time, it responded. We have reviewed the evidence provided by Earth. The charges against the Krev Empire are serious. We are calling an emergency session of the Galactic Council." Thal's expression turned to rage when he received that message. The Council was finally paying attention, and it was because these primitive humans had outmaneuvered him. "No more delays," he said. "Attack now." The 3 Krev warships moved into position around Earth, energy weapons charged. Targeting systems locked onto major cities: Seoul, New York, London, Tokyo, Delhi. The plan was simple: destroy these cities, break human spirit, then land and take the Velens by force. On Earth, sirens wailed. People rushed to shelters. Parents held their children. Soldiers took positions, knowing their weapons were useless against the ships in orbit, but determined to fight anyway. Jiwon and the team of engineers watched their screens in horror. The shield network was at 70% completion. Not enough. They had maybe 5 cities protected, not the dozens they needed. "We're out of time," Minji said, her voice hollow. Hyunsu stood in the command center, watching the Krev ships prepare to fire. He thought about his grandmother, the refugee who had walked through war to find safety. He thought about the Velens hiding in a warehouse, families who had lost everything. "All forces," he said into the radio, "prepare to engage. Even if we can't win, we make them remember that Earth does not surrender." Around the world, fighter jets took off. Ships left harbors. Missile batteries activated. It was futile against alien technology, but humans were doing it anyway. The Krev began their attack. Energy beams shot down from all 3 ships simultaneously, targeting Seoul. And then something impossible happened. The shield held, not just over one point, but over the entire city. The energy beams struck the barrier and dispersed harmlessly into the atmosphere. In the tech center, alarms were going off. Ji-won stared at his screens in confusion. "That's not possible," he said. "We don't have coverage there yet. How is the shield?" Then he saw it. New satellites were appearing on his network, hundreds of them. But they weren't Earth satellites. They were Velen in design, but coming from somewhere else. "Ships approaching," Hyunsu reported. "Multiple signatures, not Krev." Across the solar system, vessels began appearing, sleek, graceful ships that moved like fish through water. They were Velen ships, dozens of them, but these were not refugees. These were warships. A transmission came through to Earth. An older Velen face appeared on screens, a female with wise eyes and scars on her silver skin. "People of Earth," she said, "I am Admiral Neve of the Velen Liberation Fleet. We received your distress signal, your evidence of Krev crimes. We thought we were too late to save our people from you. We never expected you to be saving them from the Krev." Neve's ships moved into defensive positions around Earth, their weapons powered up, facing the Krev warships. "You protected our children when you had no reason to," Neve said. "You stood against the Krev when you knew you might die. The Velen people do not forget such courage." "We stand with Earth now." Thal found himself suddenly outnumbered. 3 Krev warships against 30 Velen fighters, and the Galactic Council ship was still watching, recording everything. "This is not over," Thal transmitted. "You cannot protect them forever." "Perhaps not forever," Admiral Neve replied. "But we can protect them today, and tomorrow, and as long as it takes." For a moment, space around Earth was silent. 2 forces, weapons charged, waiting to see who would fire first. Then another transmission came, this time from the Galactic Council ship. "The Galactic Council has reviewed all evidence. The Krev Empire is charged with genocide, war crimes, and violation of refugee protection protocols. All Krev forces are ordered to withdraw immediately. Commander Thal, you are to return to Council space to face trial." Thal's face contorted with rage, but he was trapped. The Council ship had enough firepower to destroy his small fleet. The Velens were ready to fight, and now the entire galaxy was watching. "This is not justice," Thal snarled. "This is Withdraw, the council voice said firmly, or be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply. For 59 seconds, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the Krev ships began to power down their weapons. They turned away from Earth and began moving toward the outer solar system. On Earth, people poured into the streets, crying and cheering and hugging strangers. They had survived. Against all odds, humanity had faced an alien empire and won. In the warehouse, Do-hyun watched Kira embrace her people as they learned that more Velans had survived. That they were not alone after all. "Thank you," Kira said to him, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for believing in us when you had no reason to." "We had every reason," Do-hyun said. "You needed help. That's all the reason anyone should need." Admiral Neve's ship landed near the coastal town. She walked down the ramp with a grace that made her seem to float. When she saw the small warehouse where her people had been hiding, protected by a handful of humans who had everything to lose, she stopped. She approached Do-hyun, Hana, Junho, Yuna, Hyunsu, Minji, Taeyang, and Jiwon. All the humans who had risked everything. "I have fought in wars across 10 star systems," Neve said. "I have seen bravery and cowardice, nobility and cruelty. But I have never seen anything like what you did here. You had no weapons that could hurt us. You had no reason to trust us, yet you protected us anyway." "It was the right thing to do," Junho said simply. Neve smiled. "In all my travels, I have learned that what is right and what is done are rarely the same thing. You chose both. For that, the Velan people owe you a debt we can never repay." But the story was not over yet. The Krev had retreated, but questions remained. What would happen to the Velan refugees? Would they leave Earth? And what did this mean for humanity's place in the galaxy? 6 months after the Krev fleet retreated from Earth, the world had changed in ways nobody could have imagined. The small coastal town where everything began had become the center of something extraordinary. Do-hyun stood on the beach where he first saw the Velan ship crash into the water. Now, that same beach was busy with construction. Humans and Velans worked side by side, building the first permanent human-alien cultural center. The building was beautiful, designed by both species, combining human architecture with Velan flowing aesthetics. "It's almost finished," Kira said, walking up beside him. She had learned to speak Korean now, though she still carried the translation device out of habit. Her skin had adapted slightly to Earth's sun, taking on a faint shimmer that made her look like she was made of starlight. "Your people are staying, then?" Do-hyun asked, though he already knew the answer. "Some of us," Kira said. "About half want to return to space to find other Velan survivors and rebuild. But many want to stay here. Earth gave us something we thought we had lost forever." A home. The Velan refugees had been granted permanent asylum by the United Nations. It was a historic decision, the first time in human history that alien beings were welcomed as official residents of Earth. Most of them had settled in Korea, near the town that first protected them, though some had spread to other countries. Admiral Neve's Liberation Fleet had departed 2 months ago, but they left behind advisors, technology, and a promise. The Velans would help Earth develop, would share their knowledge, would stand with humanity if threats came again. And threats would come. Earth's defiance of the Krev Empire had been noticed across the galaxy. Some saw humans as brave, others saw them as foolish. But everyone now knew that Earth existed and that the people there were willing to fight for what they believed in. Hana had become the lead researcher on a joint human-Velan science project. Working with Velan scientists, she was studying Earth's oceans in ways never before possible. Velan technology could dive deeper, scan more accurately, and understand ocean ecosystems with incredible precision. "We found 3 new species just this week," Hana told Do-hyun excitedly one evening. species that have been hiding in the deep trenches where we could never reach before. Earth's oceans are more incredible than we ever knew. But her work wasn't just about discovery. The Vellans had shared technology that could clean ocean pollution, restore damaged coral reefs, and protect marine life. In 6 months, they had accomplished environmental restoration that would have taken humans decades. Junho was no longer just the mayor of a small town. He had become Earth's liaison to the Vellan community, helping to manage integration and solve problems. It wasn't always easy. Some humans feared the Vellans, distrusted them, or resented the resources spent helping them settle. "Change is hard," Junho told the town council during one difficult meeting, "but we made a choice 6 months ago. We chose compassion over fear. Are we really going to change our minds now just because it's inconvenient?" The vote always went in favor of the Vellans. The people who had hidden them in warehouses, who had risked everything, were not going to abandon them now. Hyunsu had been promoted to lead the new Earth Defense Force. Working with Vellan military advisors, he was helping to modernize Earth's defenses, not to start wars, but to ensure that the planet could protect itself if hostile aliens came. "We're not trying to become conquerors," Hyunsu explained to the UN Security Council. "But we can't remain defenseless either. The galaxy knows we're here now. We need to be ready." The Defense Force was careful, ethical, and transparent. Every new weapon system was reviewed by international committees. Every technology was shared with all nations. Earth was learning to defend itself while staying true to its values. Yuna had opened the first interspecies school. Human children and Vellan children studied together, learned together, played together. The differences between them became less important than the similarities. One day, Yuna watched as a human boy taught a Vellan girl how to play soccer, while a Vellan boy showed human children how to create holographic art with Vellan technology. The children didn't see aliens and humans. They just saw friends. "This is the future," Yuna told a reporter who was filming the school. "Not tolerance, not just acceptance. True integration, true friendship." Minji had achieved something remarkable. She had become Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. At 29 years old, she represented humanity in a political body that spanned thousands of star systems. It was intimidating. Most council members were species with thousands of years of space travel experience. Humanity was the newcomer, the primitive species that had somehow punched above its weight. But Minji had earned respect. Her presentation of evidence against the Krev Empire had led to the first successful prosecution of a council member species for war crimes. Commander Thal was in prison, awaiting trial. His empire had been sanctioned and was facing investigation. "Earth may be young," one council member told Minji, "but you have shown wisdom that some older species lack. You protected those who could not protect themselves. That speaks well of your people." Minji worked tirelessly to build relationships with other alien species, to learn galactic politics, and to ensure that Earth had a voice in decisions that affected the planet. Taiyang had become one of the most famous journalists in the world. His live streams during the crisis had been watched by billions. His interviews with Vellans had helped change public opinion. Now, he documented the daily reality of human-alien integration. His latest project was a documentary about Vellan culture. He had spent weeks learning about their art, their music, their history. What he discovered amazed him. "The Vellans were never warriors," Taeyang explained in one segment. "Their entire civilization was built on empathy, on feeling the emotions of others. They created art that could make you feel joy or peace or wonder. They developed science not to conquer but to understand, and the Krev feared them for it. They feared a people who could make others feel compassion." The documentary won awards and helped humans understand why protecting the Vellans had been so important. It wasn't just about saving lives. It was about preserving something beautiful and rare in the galaxy. Jiwon had become the youngest person ever to lead a major technology company. Working with Velen engineers, he was developing innovations that would change human life. Clean energy systems based on Velen power cores. Medical technology that could heal injuries in days instead of months. Communication systems that connected Earth to the wider galaxy. But he was careful. "We can't just copy Velen technology," he told his team. "We need to understand it, adapt it, make it ours. We need to grow at a pace we can handle." Some Velen technology was kept restricted. Weapons systems, advanced AI, technologies that humanity wasn't ready for yet. The Velens understood this and supported it. "We made mistakes in our history," one Velen elder told Jiwon. "We developed technologies before we developed the wisdom to use them properly. Don't repeat our errors." 1 year after the crash, Earth held a celebration. It was called Unity Day, a new holiday commemorating the day humanity chose to protect the Velens instead of surrendering them. The celebration was held in the coastal town, on the beach where everything began. Thousands of people attended, humans and Velens together, celebrating peace and friendship. Do-hyun stood with Kira, watching the sunset. In the distance, he could see his old fishing boat still tied to the dock. He still went out fishing sometimes, though now he had Velen friends who joined him and showed him techniques for finding fish that human fishermen had never imagined. "Do you ever regret it?" Kira asked. "That night when you pulled us from the water? Your life became so complicated because of us?" Do-hyun laughed. "Complicated? Yes. But also richer, more meaningful. You gave me purpose, Kira. You reminded me that one person can make a difference." "One person did make a difference," Kira said. "But it wasn't just one. It was you. Hana, Junho, Yuna, Hyunsu, Minji, Taeyang, Jiwon. It was this whole town. It was millions of humans who voted to protect us. One person started it, but many finished it." On the stage, Admiral Neve was giving a speech. She had returned to Earth for the celebration, bringing news from across the galaxy. "The Velen people are scattered no more," she announced. "We have found 17 colony ships that survived the Krev attacks. We are rebuilding, and we are doing it with help from our new friends, the humans of Earth." The crowd cheered, humans and Velens together, celebrating survival and hope. "But I want to share something else," Neve continued. "Earth's actions have inspired others. 3 other species have broken ties with the Krev Empire. 5 new species have applied to join the Galactic Council. The galaxy is changing because of what you did here." She paused, looking out at the crowd. "You showed the galaxy that power is not just about weapons or technology. It's about courage. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's dangerous. Earth may be a young world, but you have taught old worlds an important lesson." As the celebration continued, Yuna brought the children forward. Human and Velen children together, they performed a song. The melody was human, but the harmonies were Velen. The lyrics were in both languages, switching back and forth seamlessly. It was a song about stars and homes and finding family in unexpected places. When it ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Later that night, after most people had gone home, the core group gathered one last time on the beach. Do-hyun, Hana, Junho, Yuna, Hyunsu, Minji, Taeyang, Jiwon, and Kira, the people who had started it all. "Look at what we built," Junho said, gesturing at the cultural center now glowing with both electric lights and Velen bioluminescence. "A year ago, this was just an empty beach." "A year ago, we were just ordinary people," Hana added. "A fisherman, a biologist, a mayor, a teacher, a soldier, a bureaucrat, an activist, a tech genius. And an alien refugee who crashed into your ocean," Kira finished with a smile. "We're still ordinary people," Do-hyun said. "We just did what anyone should do. We helped someone who needed it." "But not everyone would have," Minji said. "That's what made it special. You had every reason to be afraid, to protect yourselves first, but you didn't." Taeyang had his camera out, filming one last time. "For the record, he said. What do you want people to remember about all this? They were quiet for a moment, thinking. Remember that we were scared, Yuna finally said. We weren't fearless heroes. We were terrified, but we did the right thing anyway. Remember that it wasn't easy, Junho added. There were costs, risks, moments when we almost gave up. Being good isn't always simple. Remember that we did it together, Hyunsu said. Not one hero, but a community, a town, a world. Jiwon nodded. Remember that different doesn't mean enemy. The Velans were strange, alien, unknown. But they were also people who needed help. Remember, Kira said softly, that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. Do-hyun pulled us from the water when he could have left us to drown. That one choice saved my people. Hana smiled. Remember that the universe is bigger than we thought. More dangerous, yes, but also more full of wonder and possibility. Minji looked up at the stars. Remember that Earth is part of the galaxy now. We're not alone anymore, and that's beautiful. Do-hyun thought for a long moment. Then he spoke. Remember that when we're tested, when we're afraid, when doing the right thing costs us everything, that's when we find out who we really are. And I'm proud of who humanity turned out to be. They sat together on the beach, watching the stars. Among those stars, ships traveled. Velan vessels, human probes starting their first journeys into deep space. And somewhere out there, the Galactic Council maintaining peace. A Velan child ran past, chasing a human child. They were laughing, playing tag, oblivious to how impossible their friendship would have seemed a year ago. That's the future, Kira said, watching them. Not us, the old ones who remember the fear and the war. But them, the children who will grow up knowing that different species can be family. To the future, then, Do-hyun raised an imaginary glass. To the future, they all echoed. Above them, the stars shone brightly. And on one small planet, on one quiet beach, two species who had been strangers learned what it meant to be home together. The crash had been an accident. The choice to help had been intentional. And that choice had changed everything. Years later, when humans traveled to other worlds, when Earth took its place among the stars, people would ask how it all began. How did humanity go from a single planet to a galactic civilization? How did humans become known across the galaxy as the species that protects refugees, that stands against tyranny, that chooses compassion over fear? The answer was always the same. It began on a beach. It began with a fisherman who pulled strangers from the water. It began with ordinary people who made an extraordinary choice. It began with 42 refugees who crashed on Earth by accident, and the humans who shielded them from disaster. And from that beginning, everything changed.